Good morning. I want to welcome you to Unity in Marin. I'm Reverend Tim Lytle. I want to welcome all of you who are online and those of you who are with us physically. We had a pretty full sanctuary in the first service, and people are still coming in on the second service. So we welcome you, and we have a new protocol. This is following the standards set by Marin County, which, according to the research I've done, according to what I've heard, Marin County is the most vaccinated county in the country. So what we're doing is, if you have been fully vaccinated, you have an option. You can take your mask off, or you can wear it if you wish. And also, if you're not fully vaccinated, we do ask that you wear your mask, but just know that there are people who cannot get the vaccine because they have compromised immune systems, or because they're children, or whatever reason. So we want this to be a very, and it is, a very safe place to be. One of the ways in which we can connect is through our text and church function. This is, I look at these, there's an app that I go to, and so people respond and correspond with me, and I also send out news. And that text and church number is 415-991-7111. And if you've been with us a while, you can text the word loop, or if you're new to us, you can text the word welcome. And it'll ask you for some basic information, and then we can set up connection with each other. And speaking of connection, something we've been doing over the last 16 months is having a Sunday Zoom connection called Virtual Courtyard, because after services, we used to meet out in the courtyard and share food, and that's coming, by the way, but just hang on. But we're doing that at 4 o'clock on Sundays now, and you can find that link in the e-newsletter, or you can go to our website at unityinmarin.org, and you can go to events and find Virtual Courtyard, and there's the link there. So we're just wanting to welcome all of you. We are here to lift us all up into this presence of knowing we are all in this together. We are all one. And as we know that, let us stand together as we sing together our statement of truth. I know that there is a lot going on in our world. Those of you who've been watching the news, we have this situation in Florida where they're still searching. Before the service, I checked, and at that time, before the first service, there were 156 people missing, 9 people who had been found that had been killed. Let's continue to hold all of those people, families and everybody affected by that, and those frontline workers as they are going through the rubble. And let's lift up our country and our world as we know that we stand together. We stand together for freedom. We stand together for equity and inclusion. We stand together knowing that we are all the presence of God in action. I invite you to take a deep breath, and if you wish, relax your eyes or close your eyes. As we take a deep breath, we feel the presence of God living in, through, and as us, breathing, beating our heart. We are here in this presence. Wherever we are, God is. There's only one power, one presence. We breathe into that presence. This presence is love, justice, equity, kindness. Feel this presence right now. It is your true essence, your true being. Whatever is going on in your life, whether it's related to change in jobs or finances, know that this presence is here. Wherever you are, God is. And in this presence, we know health, wholeness, peace, abundance, beauty, all that God is. Knowing we are the inlet and outlet of all there is in God. We lift up all of the people affected by this situation in Florida, all of those affected in numerous ways by the pandemic. We lift up all of us who are affected by racial injustice and discrimination. We lift up our Black and brown and Asian brothers and sisters. And on this Pride weekend, we lift up in solidarity, standing with people of all sexual orientations. We are one. We are in the presence. We are the presence, and this presence now blesses this service, anoints the words, the music, and all that occurs here, so that this is truly a time of healing. And for this we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Unity is founded in prayer, and there's a lot of ways in which you can connect with us for prayer. You can call our main office at 415-475-5000 and press 0, and that goes to Dory, our office manager, and she will get those prayer requests to our prayer chaplains to pray with you. Or we have a silent prayer circle. You can email us at silentprayercircle@unityinmarin.org, and you can give your prayer request online, and that is held in silence for 30 days and passed on to Silent Unity for another 30 days of prayer. And speaking of Silent Unity, they're available 7 days a week, every hour of the day. You can call them at 1-800-NOW-PRAY, because we are based and grounded in prayer. That is truly what we are about. And so today I'm very grateful to have the assistance of Momo Cortez, who is going to be leading us in our inspirational reading. And this comes from June 19th, the Daily Word. Then she will lead us in meditation. And after the meditation, Dr. Cindy Acker, our choir director, will introduce the next piece that the choir is going to be singing. We know that this service will be a healing time, a time of being in the presence. Momo?
Our word for today is freedom. I affirm peace and freedom for all people. I am one in Christ with all people, and we are all children of God. I focus on this truth as I pray that all people know freedom. see the human race as a family, occupying the same home, planet Earth, and united in spirit, regardless of race, religion, or place of origin. I envision that all families are free to know safety and security, practice their faith with exuberance and openness, and pursue their dreams and goals without obstacles. I behold each member of my human family with love and dignity. I value their freedom as I value my own. I affirm that equality and acceptance are replacing separation and prejudice. I am so grateful for the peace, cooperation, and understanding that spring from freedom. There is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male or female. For all of you are one in Jesus Christ. Galatians, chapter 3, verse 28. And now please join me in a moment of silent meditation. Blessed be, and so it is. Amen.
It's so nice to see you. The songs that the choir will sing today were chosen to be reflective of the history and the deep meaning behind the commemoration of Juneteenth. The first song, Lord, Help Me to Hold Out, was written by James Cleveland, an American gospel singer, pianist, and composer, and a pastor of the Cornerstone Institutional Baptist Church in Los Angeles. I want you to imagine a time following the Emancipation Proclamation when nothing happened and slavery continued. Or the years following Juneteenth when slavery continued. And even now, when discrimination continues in varied forms. The gospel song, Lord, Help Me to Hold Out, it's a humble prayer. It's not a prayer of request of salvation or deliverance from the situation that one is going through or every form of life's ills, nor a demand for immediate transformation of one's circumstance. It's an ask It's an ask for a little help to persevere, to keep going, to not give up, to hold out until a change comes.
Thank you, Dr. Cindy and choir. What an amazing choir we have. Thank you. I want to thank you for all the ways you show up in the world. I mean, it might be at the grocery store, it may be on the bus, it may be on the sidewalk, it may be at home, but you show up as the presence of love. More and more we're opening up here, and so more people are starting to volunteer here in various ways. And I want to thank you for continuing to support and give, because we know as we give from the ways in which we have been blessed, that returns to us. It puts this cycle into place. There's a principle of reciprocity. So thank you for giving. There are a lot of ways in which you can financially give. Here you can send it to us at Unity in Marin, 600 Palm Drive, Novato, California, 94949. Or you can go to our text to give function. If you go to 84321 and you put that in the text, and it'll ask you how much you would like to give, and you set that up through text to give. Or you can go to our website and go to our donate button. Or there are baskets here in the back for those of us who are here live, and it's good to have all of you here live. And so there's baskets in the back if you would like to give an offering when you are leaving the service today. So thank you. And we're now going to have our offering song, which states that truth, that as we give, so we receive. And after that, Dr. Cindy Acker will again introduce the song that the choir is going to be singing.
The next song is called I Won't Go Back. It was written by a man named William McDowell, who's a gospel musician and pastor of Deeper Fellowship Church in Orlando, Florida. And I mentioned to Tim that all of the people who are songwriters are also pastors, and so his turn's coming up. The song teaches us that once you know, you can't unknow. You can be uncomfortable in the knowing, but once we know, we can't go back. I Won't Go Back teaches us that deep knowing changes us. We're never the same. It begins a healing process that we can't deny, and that no, we just can't go back.
Thank you, choir. Today we're looking at Juneteenth, which was last weekend, but with the service dealing with Father's Day and summer solstice, we didn't want to mash everything together. We wanted to give a specific service on Juneteenth and the path ahead. Now, I want to first give some unity basics. Our second main principle, unity has a lot of principles, but we have 5 big ones. And the second big one is that each and every one of us is the outpicturing, the expression, the self-livingness of the presence of God. That's why we say with confidence that wherever you are, God is. Because you're carrying that. You are that. You are bringing that wherever you are. And that means every single person, regardless of color or ethnic origin or faith tradition, every person is this expression of the divine. Juneteenth is one of those, and I'm so grateful that it has become a federal holiday, and it's one of those holidays that I have a mix of feelings in experiencing it. Okay, in the 1800s, we had the Emancipation Proclamation, and 2.5 years later, in 1865, the Union soldiers came to the state of Texas, where slavery was still being practiced. And it was still being practiced because there was an absence of Union soldiers there. And so they came to Texas to declare that the enslaved people of Texas were free. And slave owners from other areas of the country had come to Texas knowing that enforcement was quite lax there. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation, when I was a kid, I was taught that the Emancipation Proclamation set those enslaved people free and that there was no more slavery after that. That's what I was taught. I just went with it. And then found out later, no, that's not true. Slavery continued. And so then I heard about Juneteenth. And of course, when on June 19th, Juneteenth is a contraction of June 19th, Juneteenth. When June 19th, 1865 occurred, and this announcement was made, wow, people who are black had, festival and dinner and celebration. However, and we're going to be dealing with some of the shadow side. And what I've learned more and more is that our unity principles only work to the extent to which we are able to face our own shadow side. Some people think unity is about all smiles and unicorns and rainbows, and it is very, very positive. But in order for these principles to fully work in our lives and in our world, we need to face the shadow side individually and collectively, as spiritual communities, as the wider community, and as the world. So here's some of the mixed feelings that I have about Juneteenth. So, going back to about 1865, the same year of Juneteenth, where it was proclaimed that people are free, that same year, Jim Crow laws started to go into effect. Jim Crow laws named after a minstrel act, someone who would perform in blackface and, do an exaggeration of someone of color. Jim Crow laws were these laws that different states put into place so that if someone is black, a person of color, even looked at you in a way that you thought was disrespectful, you could have them arrested. Jim Crow laws put into effect segregation. So, no, you cannot stay at this motel. No, you can't stay at that motel either. No, you cannot eat at that restaurant. No, you cannot drink at that drinking fountain. These kind of laws were enacted so that it would be easier for people who were black to be arrested. It was part of his strategy. So, lots of things a person could be arrested for. A person who is black could be arrested because they were not officially listed as employed. So every year, they would have to register what their employment was, and they could only work in certain areas, certain, worker servitude type areas, and they couldn't make more than a certain amount. So having them register every year was a way to guarantee that these people could not gain a higher position in work, could not gain higher wages. And if you did not cooperate with that, you would likely be arrested, beaten, or killed. Jim Crow laws. There were laws throughout our country. And in fact, in the 1930s, there was a group in Germany called the Nazi Party. And they were looking for good examples of how to control minorities such as Jewish people or other minorities in Germany. Guess where they looked to find their inspiration? Right here. America's Jim Crow laws were the inspiration for what the Nazi Party put into place called the Holocaust. Now, I'm going to be dealing with some heavy stuff here, but stay with me. I know it's tempting to just, let's turn this off. Let's go take a walk. Let me go somewhere else in my mind. But it's really important for us to look at these things, and we will end on a positive note, because we know in unity that there's only one power and one presence, and that presence is living itself as us. So there's good to be done here. There's something good that is coming forth here. But it's important for us to look at this, because unity does not teach to keep our heads in the sand. Unity doesn't teach us to, just put on a happy face and fake it till you make it. No, it's about really looking at our stuff. So, the 13th Amendment was passed, abolishing slavery, which looks good. Looks good. So this was enacted after Juneteenth. We're abolishing slavery, and a clause was put into the 13th Amendment. And the clause stated that if a person is convicted of a crime, they could be forced to work without pay. Did you know? Did you know that? Official laws of the United States? So, the strategy was, with these Jim Crow laws, it will be easy to arrest people who are black because there's such a long list, and surely they'll mess up, and we can stand in front of them and intimidate them until they break one of these laws, and then they can be arrested, and then they can be put into involuntary servitude. Legalized slavery, and they will work without any wages, and because people who are black or brown would be incarcerated for longer periods of time than their white counterparts, many people who are black died while they were doing that hard labor with no pay. This is our history. I wasn't taught all this history growing up. Were you? And so these people, enslaved people, and then people who were put into involuntary servitude, were the people in many ways who built the structure of this country. It was enslaved people who built our Capitol building. When you go to Washington, D.C., you can see lots of places that are built by those who are enslaved. Were they compensated? Were their families compensated? We need to keep all of that in mind, because what was happening was it was being built into the very DNA and structure of our country to make it impossible for people of color to be able to rise to a level above where they were. It was a way of forcing control. All a person had to do, would say, oh, is it Emmett Till? Is that his name? Emmett Till. All you have to do is say, he whistled at me and he made sexual advances at me and he did this and he did that. And immediately there is a mob that forms. 1 hour he was convicted, put to death. On the statement of a woman who years later said, I lied. It's kind of an ugly history, isn't it? But we need to look at it. It's our history. And why I bring it up is, can you see why I have mixed feelings about Juneteenth? It's like, yeah, this is wonderful, Freedom Day, and when is the freedom coming? Because even after Jim Crow laws were abolished, 1968, 100 years of Jim Crow laws, that system was so embedded throughout the system and workplace and institutions that a lot of that is still in operation today, even though it's not official law. So, there's work for us to do, yeah? I mean, the fifth big principle in unity is that it's not enough to study this and to learn our principles and be able to converse on it. We act on it. That's our fifth big principle. That we act. We don't just sit back and, let's ohm this away. But we get involved. As many of you know, I'm on the General Board of Trustees for the Unity Worldwide Ministries, or our general board for the movement. And our board's been looking at this and looking at itself and is going through a process of looking at our own internal programming and implicit bias that we may have been unaware of. And working with black ministers in our movement, friends of mine. One of them I'm going to have come and speak here. Friends of mine who've been discriminated against in unity churches and have been discriminated against in the unity movement. The unity movement started in Missouri. Missouri was one of those slave states, which was also a border state, and because it was a border state, the Emancipation Proclamation did not apply to it. Did you know that? One of the areas I love to study history is you go to the History Channel online. They have all these amazing articles by historians, and you can go as deep as you want because each article will have about 10 links to go to some other aspect of it, and I just keep going deeper and deeper in it until I just... So, the Unity Movement, as you may know, Unity Village in the Kansas City, Missouri area, in that area they had these sundown laws. And if someone was black, they had to be home by sundown, or they could be arrested. So Unity Village would work with black students who came to study to be Unity ministers. Those Unity ministerial students could not stay on campus with the white students if they were black, and they had to find lodging off of Unity Village. Until, right, I know. I'm with you, Bev. It's like, what? Wait, what are our principles? Anyway. And so eventually one of those students, Johnny Coleman, and accompanied by her co-students, stood up and said, enough. And she's the first black person who was able to stay all night at Unity Village, having been given living quarters that had been a janitor's closet. There's more history, not allowing, youth would come to Unity Village and their massive swimming pool there. The white students were swimming, but the black students were not allowed to until, again, that was confronted. There's this history. How does this make you feel? Sad, yucky, ashamed, angry, disgusted. Just like one or two words because we're being recorded.
Oh, I was just going to say that there was a wonderful gentleman who lived over in Oakland that wanted to come see me as a psychologist to do work. He said, you need to come to Oakland to see me. If I cross that bridge, if I cross the bridge into Marin County during the day or night,
right.
I will be arrested.
Let me repeat what was said here. So this is about a fellow psychotherapist who refused to come over here to meet with a fellow psychotherapist because of the likelihood or possibility of being arrested or getting into legal trouble just crossing the bridge from Oakland to come here. And this is now. Breathe into that. Let's take a deep breath. One of the places that I would, one of the temples where I was very involved in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. I hear people from Hawaii saying, oh, we don't have prejudice here. We all grew up with so many different races and nationalities. So a man who is black and his wife who is white and their children moved to Hawaii after hearing that it was a safe place to be. They had only been there for a few days, and this just happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the wife thought that her husband was going to go to the temple, and what you do when you get to the temple is you untie your shoes and you go into the temple. He went to a house right next to the temple and took off his shoes and went in, and the woman inside called the police. and that man was shot to death. And the people in Hawaii haven't said squat. Because they have a belief that somehow they're not affected by prejudice. Some of my Hawaii friends are watching. I just want you to think about that. So, Unity Worldwide Ministries. Our board issued a long resolution. I'm not going to read it all, but I will send it out to all of you. I'm just going to read parts of this. Unity Worldwide Ministries stands for anti-racism. We stand for anti-racism. That is, we are opposed to racial hatred, racial violence, bias, systemic racism, and the oppression of people of color. We stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion for people who are marginalized because of color. Go to another portion here. And I think this is important. Unity Worldwide Ministries Board of Trustees acknowledges that there has been and is systemic racism in Unity. We acknowledge and accept responsibility for the impact that our history with racism has made upon our black and brown friends, colleagues, congregants, students, employees, and patrons, both past and present. We commit to eradicating any and all systems, policies, and practices that would in any way replicate our past mistakes or reproduce an environment that discriminates against or is inhospitable toward people on the basis of race, color, or ethnicity. And there's other things in this that are specific action steps. I think it's important, I know it's important, to first acknowledge it. You may wonder, wow, Reverend Tim, this is kind of a heavy topic. I was hoping for something to lift me up. Hang on, we'll get there. But we first need to face that shadow side, right? We need to face it. We need to educate ourselves. And we need to acknowledge. We need to own up to this history, ways in which people have been discriminated against and continue to be. And after we've acknowledged that, we need to look at what are things that I continue to do in my life? What are things that happen in my spiritual community? What are things that happen in the wider community that continue to put people of color at a disadvantage? And look at our own practices and our own implicit bias. Now, you may believe that you're beyond implicit bias. I would invite you to come to the Wednesday night classes that we have. Every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Because as one dives into this more deeply, most of us find out, well, actually all of us, if we stay with it, that we all have an implicit bias, implicit programming going on. So it's important for us to look at that, to work with it. Now, okay, here's the good news, okay? Let's see. There's not enough time to go into all of this. I encourage you to study this stuff. I've just given you the tip of the iceberg. But I just want you to know, see, in the unity movement, we've had people say, why are we still talking about this? We're over it. Everything's been solved. Johnny Coleman was a long time ago. Just take a breathe. A breathe? Just breathe into that. Just take a breathe. We know that we are the presence of God in action. We know that this presence of God is working in, through, and as us. And because of that, we know that we are all in this together. What happens to one person happens to me. Racial injustice doesn't just affect those who are discriminated against. All of us suffer because of discrimination. If we are being complicit by our silence, if we are being complicit by refusing to find out more about this, if we are complicit in allowing the system to continue as it has, we are putting ourselves in a position where we cannot access all that there is in God. We are setting up a block where we can experience the fullness of the presence of God when we allow, whether it's just by our silence and complicity, to allow this systemic racism to occur. You know, in 1 John, one of the epistles towards the end of the Christian scriptures, 1 John basically says, how can you claim to love God if you don't love your brother? Does that make sense? No. So this is very much important to those of us who follow unity principles to know that it is important for us to release that block, to release these things which keep us in this embedded, implicit bias, in order for us to fully be the inlet and outlet of all there is in God. Yes, I am saying that we cannot access all there is in God when we are part of that system. Unfortunately, and I love the Fillmores. Hey, I love Charles Fillmore. And I'm just filled with, I've been described as Fillmorian, okay? But there are areas where Charles Fillmore missed it. What was happening at Unity Village. And he would state, in his messages, that we stand with all people, that we believe in the unity and oneness of all people. And then in some of those same messages, he would tell a joke about black people. It was part of that culture. I'm not putting down Charles. I love Charles. I love Myrtle. And Myrtle's family was involved in the abolition movement and the Underground Railroad. But we need to look at our stuff, right? And it's not enough. In fact, it's actually counterproductive to say, I don't even see color. I just see oneness. I just see the presence of God. I don't even see color. And what that is saying to me is you do not see people of color. You do not see what is happening with people of color. We hear it a lot in unity. In leadership in unity. Oh, I don't see color. We're all one. Bev, that's hilarious. I got to repeat it. She said, we're all white. There are many people who are black in unity, and we're working with black ministers and looking at all of this. And I want to engage a practice with you. How many of you have heard of Ho'oponopono? Ho'oponopono. Nope? Okay. Many of you have. So I'm going to engage us in a practice here because my purpose in talking about this is not that, well, my purpose is that we own our stuff. My purpose is that we look clearly at our stuff. But my purpose in this isn't just so you'll feel bad about yourself. No. Unity is about transformation. Unity is about helping us to face our shadow side and to be able to embrace and acknowledge it and then transform that by the renewing of our minds. That we can change our thoughts and change our lives. Unity teaches this. And, Paul said that to let that renewing of our minds to occur. We believe in this. So Ho'oponopono is one of the, by the way, pono in Hawaiian, the Hawaiian language, means to make things right. So Ho'oponopono is a process by which we can make things right within ourselves, to bring about integration in ourselves. Because the fact is, those who try to make separation in the world are not integrated in themselves. So Ho'oponopono is a process to integrate in ourselves. So I invite you, if you wish, relax your eyes or close your eyes and take a deep breath. As we move into this process, we know that where we are, the presence of God is. We know in this presence there is love, there is grace, there is transformation, there is power. That we are the presence of God. And I invite you in just a moment to think about those enslaved people. Think about those enslaved people building our federal buildings. Those enslaved people who built our country without pay. People who were abused, people who were held down. Envision those people and their descendants. And using the Ho'oponopono process, please repeat after me. I am sorry.
I am sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just feel that. Feel how it feels to say to these enslaved people, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Because we're all part of this system. I invite you to envision those people of color, black, brown, who because of their color were not allowed to buy homes, were not allowed to buy homes in many areas, who are not allowed to make above a certain amount of money, who were not allowed to advance in their careers, people who were discriminated against in institutions and in their jobs and in banking practices, and by our medical system. We're not allowed the same care to this day. Envision all of these. Please repeat after me. I am sorry. Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I love you. Thank you. And now envision any of those people of color that you've been around when maybe they were being mistreated or maybe being ignored at a store or being followed around in a store or being followed by the police without having done anything wrong. Imagine those black people who have been murdered by police or by some other interaction. And please repeat after me. I am sorry. Please forgive me for not standing up.
Please forgive me for not standing up.
Please forgive me for being silent.
Please forgive me for being silent.
Please forgive me for assuming everything was okay.
Please forgive me for assuming everything is okay.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I want us to do this with ourselves. Whatever it is in ourselves, those areas where we felt we've been silent or didn't stand up with somebody, or we didn't stand up when they were being ridiculed or when they were being mistreated, when we didn't speak up when something occurred. We need to know this love, this forgiveness, this peace, this grace for ourselves. So please repeat after me, saying this to yourself, saying this to the core of your being. I am sorry.
I am sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I love you.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you feel that? Can you feel that work going on inside of you? This is the work we need to be doing. We are here for such a time as this. We're not here just to feel good about ourselves. We're here to truly bring justice, equity, love in our world. That is why we are here. And we have the power to do this because we are the presence of God in action. And the presence of God can never be defeated, can never be extinguished, can never be divided, diminished, diluted. We are that presence. Do you agree?
Yes.
We are that presence. Do you agree?
Yes.
And into this presence and into this yes, Spirit responds, saying, okay, I will live and work and have my being as you. Are you willing to commit to being a presence of justice and a presence of love in our world? If you're willing, please say yes.
Yes.
If you're willing to be a presence of love and justice in our world, will you please say yes?
Yes.
And into this yes, the presence of God is working and doing its work in, through, and as us, bringing about what Jesus taught. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. As above, so below. We are that presence. Do you feel that? Do you feel that? Do you know it? Breathe into that presence of God. Breathe into that. And so it is. Amen.
Our last song is called I Almost Let Go, written by Kurt Carr, a gospel music composer who serves as the praise and worship leader for the Fountain of Praise Church in Houston, Texas. The word endurance, when you take it apart, has within it the words, "and you ran." So I Almost Let Go is a song about just that. When one reaches what seems like the impossible situation to recover, the impossible thing to handle, when it seems like people don't recognize that the word freedom is a global word, that if we are not all free, no one is free. When it feels like one has reached the end of what one can face, what one can deal with, when we almost let go, something greater brings us along.
Couldn't take life anymore. Living had me bound, depression weighed me down, but you held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go. Like I just couldn't take life anymore. Living had me bound, depression weighed me down, but you held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go.
Gave up. I was right at the edge of a breakthrough, but couldn't see it. hatred nearly had me, but your love came and grabbed me, and you held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go.
So I'm here today because God kept me. I'm alive today only because of God's grace. God kept me. 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 God kept me.
The Unity and Marin Choir brings joy to my heart. I'm so grateful for them. As you can see, we are open. We have each Sunday 2 services, our regular services at 9:30 and 11:15 a.m., and we are also available online. And since we are open, you do not have to register online anymore. So thank you for doing that when you did that. Woohoo! And thank you, Dory, for taking care of all of that. Yes. This is going to start looking very familiar to you. Unity in Marin is going green, or shall I say that we have gone green already. And this is helping us to conserve papers. So we are no longer printing the bulletin. So what you do is this is in the narthex, and you take a picture of it with your phone, and then you will be led to follow the directions on how to access the bulletin. Pretty cool, right? Membership renewals. We're currently remembering our membership renewals. And Dory would love it if we could get this happening sooner than later. And she has kindly left a couple of forms for the membership renewals in the narthex. So please help yourself to one of the forms, or just go and visit our Unity Marin website. Sue Summers. Is Sue still here? Yes, no. Okay, she was here at the first service. The Unity Writers Workshop. It's facilitated by teacher and author Sue Summer, who is founder of the creative writing program at Marin School of the Arts. And she's also author of the Bugaboo Review, which sounds kind of interesting. I'll have to check that out. The class meets on Tuesdays from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30, and it's $20 per class, so please register online. Getting Real with Race. This is facilitated by Dr. Cindy Acker. Could you stand up, Cindy, so we can acknowledge you one more time? This is an open class. It's an ongoing class, which is great because it means that anyone can hop on board the race train whenever they would like. It's every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., and it is on Zoom. And Dr. Cindy is an excellent facilitator. On a personal note, she's brought out things in me that I didn't even know were there. and she has coached me in a very loving and intelligent way to delve and accept some of those dark sides of myself. So I thank you for that. And like the song says, I've been changed and I can't go back. So this is one of those classes. Okay, moving on. Today I don't think we had a service sponsor or a flower sponsor. The flowers were arranged by Thomas Tyree today. Thank you, Thomas, for that service. And again, you can go online or call Dory at the office if you'd like to sign up to be either the flower or the service sponsor. Unity Marin Prayer Chaplains. The chaplains are here to pray with you. And can we have the chaplains stand up? Thank you so much for your sacred service. And you can find the chaplains at the end of our service. They are here to pray with you. So please join me. I'll have everyone stand up, and we're going to say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And once again, our fabulous Unity Marin Choir is going to sing us out with our peace song.